Welcome to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best leaders they can be in any endeavor they choose. Patty Grimm is our host and interviews top women in a variety of fields to help women grow, learn, and lean in together. Patty has over 25 years of experience in primarily male-dominated fields in senior-level management positions. Patty is the owner of Advantage Training Limited, an organizational leadership team training company. She recently released her new book for women called Quiet Women Never Changed History. Be strong, stand out, and stand up. With the subtitle, Let's Go Kick Some Glass.
Let's do it. Let's get Patty on and her guest.
Hey, thanks, and good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. It's a wonderful Friday, so let's all celebrate and salute out to our veterans today. So let's make sure we do something special for a vet today. So I have an incredible guest with me today. I want to introduce you to one of my colleagues and someone I consider a good friend, Leisa Reid. She's founder of an organization called Get Speaking Gigs Now. After booking more than 300 speaking engagements in less than 4 years, she answered the calling from a lot of people like me and other authors and speakers or people out there about how can she share her secrets with these inspiring speakers. She's founder of the highly successful OC Speaker Network, which is where we met. And you can certainly attend that through Meetup and a variety of things, so we'll have a talk about that. But, you know, many people who have powerful messages delivered just don't know how to deliver them. And once they deliver them, how do they actually get those speaking gigs to practice? And OC Speakers Network is a great place to do that. She's a former college instructor, current trainer. She works for a wonderful organization called Productive Learning that we're going to talk about. And she customizes all of her messages for all of her clients. So she really focuses on how to help people create that speaking engagement, but also how to get those bookings. And she loves what she does at Productive Learning. We all do. So for those of you who are local to Orange County, you be sure to look up the OC Speaker Network and join us for one of our sessions. It's a lot of fun. So welcome, Leisa.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to kick some glass.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need a lot more really great women speakers out there. A lot of times I go to these conferences or events, and I look at the panelists or people on the panel, and a woman I know, Senator Jackson, described him as male, pale, and stale. Right?
I think I've seen some of those flyers myself, yes.
Exactly. So tell us about you and your background and how you got into this.
Oh, my gosh. Well, one odd fact about me that people usually get surprised at is that I was raised in Fairbanks, Alaska.
I knew that.
Yeah.
So you were raised in Alaska,
Yes.
and now you live in Southern California.
Now I'm here. I've been here now since 1991, so eventually the scales did tip. But I think one of the things that I learned about growing up in Alaska is just being a survivor and just being nice to people. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not nice to people in Alaska, well, it could be a life and death situation. You know, if you need help from somebody on the road, and you're stranded. And so you were asking me earlier today, like if I ever got nervous speaking, and there are times, and there have been times that yes, I have had that feeling of getting nervous. But I do have to say, speaking was always flowing through my blood. Even I remember my first big speech was on seatbelt safety at my junior high school in front of the entire class,
the entire class,
school, the entire middle school. And I had a great time. It was really fun. So then I, studied at Cal State Fullerton, bachelor's and master's in speech communication.
Okay.
Which is not required in order to be a speaker.
No.
But it just goes to show you. Always had an interest in speaking and fascinated. I'm also interested in the interpersonal exchange between people, not just the mass. Actually, I prefer facilitation, which brings me to productive learning.
Right.
I enjoy really getting to know people and seeing their ahas and seeing their growth, and that's one of the biggest hits I get out of being involved with a company like Productive Learning, because we're actually teaching, how can you take the thinking in your own mind and really shift your life, whether that's I want to be a speaker or have my own business or make more money or have a better marriage, whatever that may be.
I spoke to two. I agree. I mean, you can look at these massive audiences where there's thousands of people, and when you get up to speak, you're standing there, and all you see is a mass of light. You can't see the audience many cases. Even in those cases, I try and go down and engage with people in the audience and greet them. It actually helps me calm my own nerves sometimes. I really don't get afraid of speaking, but sometimes when you're there, the first couple seconds, you're thinking, why are they listening to me?
Right.
Do I have anything to say? But I've had two small things I did this week. One was with a women's group, and we actually did this presentation in a Mexican tortilla factory. Now, I've done a lot of presentations a lot of places, but it was an amazing group. I did it for free, but I sold 12 books, which was great.
There you go.
Which was great. And then I did one last night at a small bookstore in San Clemente called Beachtown Books. And we just had a conversation about the book and about how to be an empowered woman and those kinds of things. So there's lots of different ways that you can speak. But tell our audience about Productive Learning, because it's really an incredible organization that helps people in so many ways.
Thank you. Yeah, productivelearning.com for those of you who want to check that out. This company, gosh, has been in existence since 1992. Family-owned business, and we started teaching mindset before it was popular, I guess you could say. Because
well, now
it's super popular.
Well, there's conferences called Mindset 2.0.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Yeah,
and we've been teaching our clients how to, strengthen that awareness muscle, and be more mindful and have an extraordinary life since the 90s. I started at Productive Learning as a client back in 2010. And it was when, here I've shared with you the studies that I've done. So I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I'm a pretty confident person.
Yeah.
And, but yet still had some struggles. And I realized there was something that I was missing. There was some missing link that I couldn't seem to find myself just with, reading or self-growth. And then I entered into a workshop at Productive Learning. And that's where, okay, now you're allowing someone else to see you, and help you see what's already within you, but you can't see it by yourself. So that's just kind of the interesting thing about unconscious thinking. It's unconscious.
Right.
And so what we need to do is illuminate and bring it to the surface. So our workshops are all about that.
And so you have a workshop coming up called Beyond Reasons.
Beyond Reasons.
Beyond Reasons. We're going to put this up. It's an incredible workshop. Tell me, you got a special deal on this.
We do. It's a 2-day event here in Orange County, and we also have some up in San Francisco. It's called Beyond Reasons, meaning you can have what you want, and you can have your reasons why you don't have it, but you can't have both at the same time.
Right.
So we want to help you uncover what are those reasons that are hidden to you. You've hidden them from yourself. And let's get beyond those so you can have what you want. Our promotion, usually it's $395 for one person to attend, which is a half off rate. But right now we're offering $297 for 2 people, so you can bring somebody with you. This last session I just led a couple weeks ago, we had 6 different couples. So it's not a couples workshop per se, but certainly effective for couples or family members or friends.
Yeah. So let's talk about this whole speaking gig.
Yeah, let's do it.
There's a lot of people out there that have written the book or they've got a message they want to tell. What's the number one thing that most speakers would have on their wish list?
I think the biggest thing they want is the audience is to just go and speak. Like they want the audience to magically appear, and it's going to be the perfect audience, and they get to share.
They're all sitting there egerly waiting for your message with their pen in their hand,
leaning
in and taking notes.
I think that's the
that
dream
too.
that everybody wants. And that is totally possible. I don't want to laugh like it's not possible. It is totally possible. And then, there's fluctuations within that.
Right.
And there's steps to get there.
So how does somebody get started?
Great question. Actually, what I always say the first step is to this is going to sound really obvious, but the first step is actually have a talk, what I would say in the can, let's say in the film business, right?
Right. It's already done.
Ready to go. Meaning what I mean by that as a speaker coach is if I got somebody, because I get this all the time, someone's like, do you know a speaker on blankety blank? Do you know someone who could speak on this tomorrow? And I'll say, well, let me pull up who I have. And I would think, okay, Patty is a great speaker. Patty, I can call you, and if you happen to be available, which I know you're very busy, but let's just say you happen to have an opening in your schedule tomorrow, you could walk in, be prepared, and hit the ground running.
Right.
You wouldn't tell me, well, I don't have my talk ready just yet. I've been thinking about it, and someday I'll have it ready. I mean, you're never going. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing.
Yeah. So you've got a program called Get More Speaking Gigs. How does that work? Does it start people out with helping them figure out what their message is?
Yeah. What we do is, so it's Get Speaking Gigs Now, and I do it in a 90-day format where we do a group coaching. Initially, I do a lesson, and then the following week we implement, and then we lesson, and then implement, lesson, implement. Because I do know it takes a little time sometimes for our minds to get wrapped around what we need to do.
Right.
And it does start with you need to create your talk. Sometimes people, usually by the time they come to me, they already have something in mind, or
right.
I mean they're not shooting in the dark, starting from scratch.
Right.
And then we can formulate that.
Yeah. So one of the things we were talking about before we got on the air was the fact that I've seen this not just on Seinfeld. Apparently it was a Seinfeld joke, but I've actually seen this several times, that the number one fear for people, even above death, is the fear of public speaking.
Absolutely.
So what recommendations do you have for people to get over that fear? They want to speak, they've got a message, they may have written a book, or they may have something in their heart. How do you help people, or what recommendations do you have people get over that fear of public speaking?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really individual question, because, and this is one of those things where Beyond Reasons really comes into play. Like, I can tell you all the tricks and the actions and the strategies to do. You probably already know that. It's kind of like, how do I lose weight? Oh, eat right and exercise. Darn it. The secrets.
Where's that magic bullet? Where's that pill I can take in 30 pounds in 30 days?
Yeah. So it could be a mindset issue. What we want to figure out is, what is the fear? What's holding you back? And that can be a conversation. So those are good questions to ask if you're just out there listening on your own. You're like, oh, that definitely relates to me. I want to speak, but something's been holding me back. Start writing it down. Like, what do you think's actually going to happen? Like, what do you think they're going to laugh? Do you think it's going to, like, that you're going to feel bad, or you're going to faint in front of it? Like, what's this worst thing that's going to happen?
I trip walking on stage.
Absolutely. And I just saw a speaker that I know did happen at a very, very posh event, and she tripped, and it made her real. Like, she didn't ignore that it happened. She's like, well, I'm falling over myself to talk to you today. I mean, everyone appreciated her.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There are a number of things that people do. Yeah, they can go to Toastmasters, which is a great organization if you're starting from scratch.
Absolutely.
And you want the experience to get there. Other things people can do is they simply, figure out what your topic is and practice it and rehearse it.
Absolutely.
And know it cold and practice it with your family and say it into your phone and then play it back.
Yep. Those are things I tell people. Like, I'll say, practice it until you think you want to reach the point of unconscious competence, right? Where you are just, it wouldn't matter if, I don't know,
somebody asked you in an elevator and you would just flow.
You could just say it. Yeah. And so that way you're not thinking about your content, and that'll help your confidence. Yeah. And there's other things, like if you, breathing right before you go on, or setting an intention. Yeah, setting an intention. So many different things.
Yeah, just imagining, closing your eyes before you get there, taking 10 breaths, and just imagining hearing the applause when you're done.
Yes.
Or seen that audience of people looking at you that are nodding their heads with their pens, taking notes, and being able to visualize and see that's really helpful as well. And the other thing is, in many cases, the audience doesn't know what you're going to tell them.
Right.
So if you forget something or you tell a story, they're really not going to know that you forgot it. And I love the idea, and Jennifer Lawrence did this when she tripped on stage, getting to accept an Oscar one time, where she just made a joke out of it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it just makes you more human.
Yeah. And I think that I tell people, you're like the tour guide. Like, the audience is the tourists and you're the guide.
I like that.
And they're like, do you know where we're going? And like, are you going to lead us there safely?
Do you have the little fish?
Yeah. If
you've ever done
this going to be a fun ride?
If you've ever done tours in some other parts of the world, I think they even do this in the U.S. The tour guide has a stick with something on it. In Japan, it's a fish.
Oh.
It's a blue fish, a pink fish, and so the tour guide, because you can always see the fish. Just remember the color of your fish. Other places do other kinds of things. But anyway, I like that. You're the tour guide.
So you need to give them calm that you're going to take them on this journey, and where are they going, and why are they going, and what's it all for, and are they going to have a great experience with it?
Are they going to learn something from you?
Even if you don't say those words, if you know that and feel that, I find that's when I, as an audience member, I feel calm. Like, okay, we're gonna do step 3, step 1, 2, and 3, and I'm more literal like that. I like that linear plan, but
yeah. So, what is the biggest obstacle? I can say that word this morning. Obstacle that sometimes get in the way of the people that are trying to book these speaking gigs. What kind of gets in their way?
I think that one of the biggest obstacles is self-doubt, because it's, especially when it's your personal message, like this is something, it's like your baby, if you will, like this thing that you've nurtured and developed, and it can, you're an author, at one point, there is a lot of vulnerability in that, like putting it in print. And then if you're speaking, it's like, wow, I'm going to go out there and I'm actually going to put my stake in the ground. And it's real easy to talk about it at the dinner table. But when you're like, no, I'm really going to do this, that's where the rubber meets the road. Like, how serious are you? Yeah. And that's really exciting too, because now you're in the big leagues. Another obstacle, I think, is the sales side of it. We, as speakers, we want to, good. That wish, I just want to speak in front of all these people.
I just want to show up.
I just want to show up and not do anything, and they're going to love me. And the get speaking gigs now, that's why I focus on that part, because the most common question I get is, Leisa, how did you get so many speaking gigs? How do I get more speaking gigs? And I'm like, well, that's a long answer, but, part of it's in selling. You got to sell yourself.
Yeah, you have to be able to sell yourself. And I've been speaking for, probably at least 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, training, speaking, and audiences from groups of 5 or 6 to groups of thousands. And I'm doing a Sioux Talk coming up in December, which I'm really excited about. So it's like a TED Talk for women. And my topic is very personal. It's about failing forward.
Yeah.
And I'm really talking about my life and my journey and where I went from rock star to rock bottom. And the people I'm working with, Connected Women of Influence, they have a very strict process and structure you go through. Even though I've been speaking for 25 years,
it's different.
We've had every other week rehearsals on the phone with these other people where I tell my message and they say, okay, it has to be less than 12 minutes. It has to be 12 minutes. So the first time I did it was about 18, and then it was 15, and then it was 13, and then it went to 16. And so it's getting that message down and practicing it and just getting it down to what are the real kind of key points and slowing down and using pace for impact.
So saying more by saying less.
Yes. Using less words, which is one of the things that actually research shows what women can do is speak less, but speak with more impact. And so rather than telling the whole story, give people the sound bites that they can remember.
Yeah, that's really good.
Remember.
What a great learning experience this is for you.
Oh, it's been incredible.
And that's the thing about speaking, too, that I tell people, you're always going to be learning. That's why I love the Speakers Network. We get to see different speakers, see their style, and we're like, wow, I like how they did this, or, I could incorporate that. Or,
I like that story, or I like that thing that she did or he did.
Yeah. Always learning.
Yeah. So for speakers that are listening out there, how can they shift from thinking about speaking to getting speaking gigs?
Right. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, someday is not a day on your calendar. Like, we need to...
So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, first.
Yeah.
There's no Sunday.
There's no someday.
I like
someday
that.
I'm going to be speaking. And I say, well, what day will that be? Because we want to get you started on that. And so again, we go through the steps of like, let's get you ready. Make sure you've got your tools in place. That's the biggest thing. And I'm actually realizing I can't remember the question you asked me, but what was the question?
I'm sorry.
So I can get back on track.
That's okay. See, it's real. How do people get from thinking about speaking to actually speaking?
Right. So getting the tools in place so that they're confident, and then getting your list in place. Like, where do you want to speak? And I love. Did you ever read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week?
No, I did. No.
It's just a great book. And he talks about, one of the things I remember he talks about is people say, I want to sail around the world. He's like, okay, well, why don't you do that? We're like, well, I can't afford it. He's like, well, how do you know? Well, it's sailing around the world. And he's like, why don't you break it down? Like, how much money would you need? What would you need? And then really come up with a plan. And it's the same for speaking. And then all of a sudden you realize, actually, I could sail around the world if I, did this and this and this.
Right.
Same with speaking. Like, instead of talking about it, like, put your plan together. Okay, I need this much time to develop my talk, and then these are the resources that I need, and I need to practice. And do all these pieces, then I need to get my, list together of where I'm going to speak, and then I need to start calling or have a virtual assistant or hire an assistant to call and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Before we take break, I want to make sure, a couple things. I want to make sure people know how to get in touch with you.
Oh, okay.
How to get in touch with Productive Learning.
Yes.
Prop. And then we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back. And I want to talk specifically about when you talk about the tools and people need. Let's talk about Speaker One sheets and what they need, etc. But first, how do we get in touch with you?
Okay,
and
so they go on here to get involved in this special deal that we're having, this great promotion. Go to getbeyondyourreasons.com, and there'll be some dates there for Northern California, Southern California. If you're interested in speaking specifically, you can go on getspeakinggigsnow.com. There's actually a free class I offer on there, so they can grab that. And if you're local and you want to go visit us once a month, we have our OCSpeakersNetwork.com. So three ways.
How do we get in touch with you? If we want to book
you. If you want to book me, you can email me at, and I'll spell my name because it is spelled different, Leisa. So it's Lisa with an E in it, at productivelearning.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks. We'll be right back.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret. With 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
All right, back to Patty and her guest.
So this is Patty Grimm, and I'm with Leisa Reid of Get More Speaking Gigs Now and the Orange County Speakers Network, and also of Productive Learning. We're talking about how to get more speaking gigs or how to get into the speaking industry. And I want to get real practical here because you kind of talked about tools. Let's both talk about things that people need to have who want to be a speaker.
Yeah, so I set it up in 6 different steps.
Great.
One is get your talk done, which, I mean, that sounds like an easy step. That's probably like the most time-consuming step, right?
And get a talk done with slides and without slides.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other Oprah. So, but 2, you had mentioned on the break, the speaker sheet. That is my number one used tool. And more than video for me, because I know for you, I don't know, you might do some travel and keynotes, but most of the talks I do are what I call speaking gigs in your own backyard, like
because you don't want to be gone overnight with your daughter.
That's not part of my vision. But a speaker sheet, it's where you have your photo, a nice professional headshot.
Do not use a selfie or have somebody take a picture with your cell phone. Pay to get a professional photographer. It doesn't cost a lot. There's a lot that are around to take a really nice professional photo of you.
Michelle Fairless at Michelle Fairless Photography has done a lot of my photos. And then but you put your a short bio in, your topic or topics. I wouldn't do more than 3, but that's really up to you. And testimonials, you could put logos of like, oh, I've spoken for, like Microsoft.
Right,
obviously would go on Patty's because she's done a lot for Microsoft. And your contact information, like book me now. So those are the basics.
Yeah, and usually most of the ones I've seen are 2-page front and back. Some are just 1 page, but 2-page front and back. And so usually the front is, like you said, a nice photo, a little bit about your bio, something personal and fun. Like I put in there that I've got the world's cutest pugs, Roxy and Mango, and so I put something personal in there, and then the 2 or 3 topics, and then contact information, some testimonials, which you can probably get from some people that you've worked with or spoken to.
Yeah, and then, if you're just getting started, you may not have that part on there yet, but you can add it on there later. Yeah. I like to have mine designed this just because I like to make changes or updates in PowerPoint, so then I can, if I have just a little tweak or something, then I can, when I first got mine done, I hadn't had my book out yet, so then when my book came out, I was like, I can just pop that in, boom, boom, boom. I didn't have to re-get it designed or anything like that.
Yeah,
I was able to.
With PDF, sometimes it's hard to convert and reconvert.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so other tools, those are usually, if you're going to speak, that's the first thing they ask for is a bio. And a bio is okay, but a speaker sheet says you're professional.
Yes.
That's at least my opinion.
Yes. You want to have it in there. And I'll usually insert that just even if maybe we're just even if I've already sent it once, but maybe I'm following up. I'm like, I'll reattach it just so that way they've got it again. Yeah. It's a great tool. And
there's several things you can do also that people say, well, I want to hear you speak, right? So you can do some Facebook Lives on your own or have a friend. If you're speaking to a group, maybe it's a group of friends that you're speaking to at your local community or your church, is ask someone to take some photos of you as you're speaking, and you can put that together in a little package for someone. You could maybe do some webinars that you can do for free. You can use Zoom to create some Zoom videos or Facebook Live videos. When I first released my book, I have 5 principles to be a high-performing, empowered woman leader. And each week I did a Facebook Live on one of those 5 principles. It was just a short little thing and posted it on Facebook, and then I can send that to people and say, here, what's
you
all
can
about.
Also download it to YouTube and then have your own channel. And that way when people Google you or you say, you can find me on YouTube. I did one of my friends, Vanessa Simpkins, does a 30-day video challenge. She has, and so I did that one year. That was 2 or 3 years ago. And so I just downloaded all of them to YouTube. So there's 30 videos. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about get speaking gigs at that point, but you can see that I can speak very clearly and openly. If somebody found it, that's fine. They can find that on there.
Yeah, and there's if you sign up for her speaking gig course, there's a whole lot of things that you could do and learn because there's a whole science behind, whether you speak with slides or without slides and all those kinds of things. So, the speaking industry just seems really hard to break into. What are some of the biggest mistakes the newbies make trying to get into speaking gigs? I
think actually it's one of thinking, I have to prepare so much or I have to do so much work to get there. Honestly, it's very exciting to get into speaking now because there's no requirement. There's no regulation on you have to have a license to be a speaker or you have to have this degree.
You have to have 3 letters after your name, like PhD.
You have to be an author. No, you actually don't. You just need to have my opinion is that somebody's calling us.
We have a strange sound. This is live radio, people. So we have a strange sound going on.
So you're the ghost of OC Talk Radio.
You're going to see Paul for a minute, our production manager, come over and figure out what in the world is going on.
It's God. It's God calling.
A divine message.
Okay. So I was like, what was I talking about?
Yeah, what was I talking about?
So what's really cool is that as long as you have a message to share, in my opinion, I think your message should be serving some group or somebody or someone on the planet here. You can be a speaker, and I think that's the thing that a lot of times people go back to that self-doubt of like, well, I've never spoken before. I don't really know what I would say. I'm like, well, you're here for a reason. Usually when they're talking to me, it's like there's something. And how I don't know if this is true for you, but how I experience this is, have you ever read that book, Elizabeth Gilbert's, her latest one on the Big Magic?
Yes.
Big Magic. So in there she talks about, she's an author, and she talks about how like a book kind of comes to her almost like a little being, like a life. It has a life, and it comes and starts into her thoughts. I feel that way about a talk. Like when I'm creating a new talk or I might wake up at 5 a.m. and it won't go away. Like I can see myself on stage. I can hear myself saying it. And I just get up at that point and start writing it down because it's not going to go away. And I think if you have that experience, if you're out there listening and you've had that experience of like, there's this message that's coming, wanting to come out, you will then, that's your sign to get over yourself, get over your fear, get the tools you need because it does need to be heard. That's my opinion.
And the interesting thing is, as I tell people, is, figure out what your passion is.
Yeah.
Are you passionate about animals, children, excuse me, helping women, getting your message out about how people can find themselves through their self-discovery? What is it you're passionate about? And then how can you use speaking to share that with people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then people will feel that from your heart to their heart. That's that contagiousness that we want, the good contagious stuff. Yeah. We want to spread that. Or, you never know who you're going to help. You just never know. I had a gal, I did a talk for a big company called Senegence. They do that permanent lipstick.
Right.
And their headquarters were, I don't know if they still are, but were in Irvine. And they had me talk at their big global conference. And I did this talk, and a year later, I get a call, an email from one of the gals who was in that talk. She said, I don't know if you remember me. I was one crying, and I'm like, well, sometimes that does happen in my talks. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Was it a good cry?
Yeah, it was a good cry. It was a good cry. It was like, oh, wow, I'm actually I have more potential than I thought. And she's writing me saying how scared she was during, she was doubting herself. And we had talked about some unconscious thoughts that were in the way. And she writes me to say, she had this dream, but was kind of scared to give that dream. And then, but the people around her, as she voiced that obstacle, the people around her are like, are you crazy? Like, you're amazing. You've got this. And that was a turning point for her. So she ends up, this is kind of one of those companies like direct sales kind of companies where they have different promotions and you build teams and stuff. She ended up creating a new category in the entire company. Like, they didn't even have that title, that level of what she surpassed in a year from hearing me talk.
Right.
I didn't know that she had that success, because we didn't, you're talking to 100 people. You don't know, get to connect with everyone. So you just never know who you're going to be affecting. I mean, she's affected millions of, people's lives. So pretty amazing.
Oh, this talk I gave last night at Beachtown Books down in San Clemente, which is a wonderful little used bookstore. I love old little.
Do they have the cat? Is it the one where they have the little cat?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place.
It's a great little place. And so I was having this, and I was doing this presentation on my Women Kicking Glass, 5 Ways to Be an Empowered Woman Leader, and there's a young man sitting there, and at first I'm thinking he looked really, really young, and then pretty soon I noticed that the woman next to him, and they were holding hands, so it was her husband.
Oh.
And so I was talking about, be strong, stand up, have a personal vision, how to put yourself first on your things to do list, how to pay it forward, all the things I talk about. And when I was done speaking, I sat there with him and his wife, and he said, I'm retiring from the Marines next June. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And your talk about how to think about my strengths and have my own personal vision is really helping clarify for me about what I want to do.
That's awesome.
And I never thought I would be talking to a young gentleman who was just leaving the Marines after serving in the service. And we got into a whole long conversation about things he could do to figure that out. But you never know who you're going to make a difference.
You don't.
And when people say, why do you do what you do? How do you answer that? And I'll tell you how I answer that. Why do you speak? Why do you do this?
I can't
Why
not
do you work
do
at
it.
Productive
Yeah,
Learning?
like I can't not do it. I just my mission is to inspire people to make a positive change in their life. And I kept on that mission until with Productive Learning, that to me is the type of education everyone on the planet should be having. And our life would be way different if we were all tapping into the power of our unconscious thinking and being more conscious in our relationships and what we truly wanted. And I mean, that's, to me, that's it.
You should talk to Productive Learning about having something for teens, for teenagers, and for young kids. Because that's something we could work together on. I would love to do that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that.
Because my personal vision, like what you do, why you do what you do, is and this has been for 25 years, is to make a difference and empower people to be the best they could be.
Oh, right. Yeah. So ours are very similar.
Or achieve their full potential. And so if I'm talking to an audience of 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 5 people, whatever, and I make a difference in one person's life, I've been successful that day. And I'm sure my husband's listening. If not, he will listen later. He's like, now, why are you driving to San Diego? Or why are you doing
I'm on a mission, honey.
I'm on a mission. I can't stop writing books. Right? I must have stacks and stacks and stacks of research and papers on human trafficking. And the newest thing I'm sort of on is sort of this whole thing about how it's such a negative world, and there seems to be men against women and minorities against non-minorities and people, all these things going on. It's the current thinking is this yin-yang of leadership where things that seem opposite complement each other. And the subtitle is When She Rises, He Does Not Fall. About how we need men and women leaders, how we need all of this. There's just so much negativity in the world, and I keep thinking of our kids. You've got a young daughter. My kids are grown, and someday I have a couple grandkids, and someday maybe I'll have a few more. But, I think about the kids, and they need this message to be, insightful and mindful and conscious.
Absolutely.
Of what they're
100%.
doing.
Yeah, it's been a mission of mine it's been a vision of mine to bring this to a younger audience to see how we can do that. I actually have a meeting. I have contact with someone that just popped up yesterday. So we'll see. Yeah, I keep looking, and I'm so glad we talked about that because I didn't know that was on your mind too.
This is kind of a conversation.
It's divine. It's happening right now.
It's happening right now. This is the power of connection.
It's recorded for posterity.
So one of the challenges I think of some business people and a lot of people who do speaking are solo consultants. So you call them solopreneurs.
Yeah,
solopreneurs. I like that. Solopreneurs. And they've got their business and they're trying to get more clients. So how could they use speaking to get more clients?
Yeah, and I mentioned the solopreneurs because a lot of times speakers or people who want to be speakers, authors, whatever, they're working on their own. There's no one to bounce ideas off. There's no boss saying you need to get this speech done, and there's
nobody to critique you.
Yeah. There's no direction here. It's very self-directed, which is awesome, and then also can make us procrastinate or question or
lonely.
Yeah, it's lonely, and you're like, I think this is good. Anyone else think this is
anybody
good?
listening?
So, and then especially if you're a business owner or, you have your own business and you're like, this happens a lot. And you see this at the Speakers Network,
right?
Like Rich Gaines, he's a tax attorney, right? Yeah.
We have a locksmith in the group.
I know. We have all these, we have attorneys, financial planners, we've got locksmith, and so what I found is that all across industries, you could line up 100, dentists or whatever. One of those dentists is going to have a passion to speak. And those are the people who kind of pop out, sprout out.
Yep.
So it's find your unique thing about what you offer the marketplace. And whether you're a realtor or talking about, green Eileen Oldroyd, talking about how to, really help the environment through and her message, but also being an amazing realtor. It's okay, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So I think, being unique and what is it that you serve, how can you educate your audience on your area of expertise? People need to know that.
Yeah. And if you're, I know at one point in time I was just thought, I'm going to just go search on, I did on Google and Bing since I used to work for Microsoft. Google's very hard for me to use. I almost feel like I've got Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer hovering over me going, don't use Google.
That's so interesting. I had no idea there was such a, okay, cool.
My husband reminded me this the other day, is that I used to be a big Apple person. So I had the first Apple PowerBooks. I had tons of Apple computers. When I went to work for Microsoft, they literally had to pull that Apple computer out of my bloody fingertips. And I was like, no.
Can't we all just get along?
Can't we all just get along? But I just happened to do a search, and I searched on women's associations, and there were 10 million.
Oh, yeah.
So there's
tons.
A lot of associations. You could go out there. You could go speak to them. A lot of times I'll say to people, I just talked to somebody yesterday down in San Diego, and she said, we'd love to have you come speak to our Women in Construction group. Mm-hmm. Would you do the first one for free? Meaning that the next ones would be paid. And I thought, well, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. If it's an opportunity to speak, I maybe sell a few books or something. Yeah. But it's an opportunity to then meet people for clients. So how can business owners use speaking to get more clients?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And so I'm going to answer that question, then I do have something. Remind me to tell you something about speaking for free. Okay. Yes. So here's the thing. A lot of times people might meet their clients one-on-one, or prospects. Let's say they're not a client. I mean, most business owners that I know, it's well, what do you need? Oh, more clients or more business is usually, what we're going, even if we're busy, eventually we'll need more. So speaking is a way to go from one-to-one conversation to one-to-many conversations. And so then that way, if you have the right audience and you have the right topic, meaning you're offering something education-wise that they can benefit from, that's an awesome opportunity to then garnish some clients that you would normally never meet. And you start to open up your sphere of influence, especially if, like for me, I say I'm out networking a lot, but not because I'm there to network. I'm speaking, but I get invited. Like I've spoken for the National Women in Construction. I've spoken for payroll associations. I've spoken for engineering associations, and then like little, small women's groups that are local. So and big, and all these different places. I've gotten to go to all these really cool little places that I never would go.
I spoke to the National Association of Civil Engineers.
Yeah, there you go.
They paid me a small fee, and they gave me this nice little plaque, and I was like, civil engineers? That's
yeah, there's association. I always say there's an association for everything. If you want to knit mittens for cats, there's probably an association for that. But I don't know what you would speak on, but maybe knitting.
Or cats.
Knitting gloves for cats. New product. But what I say about speaking for free, I actually tell my clients, you don't speak for free, you waive your fee. It's a slight difference.
That's a very big difference.
It's a slight difference, but that way you're setting your value. You're letting them know that you typically do have a fee, and you will waive it for certain scenarios, like you said, or gosh, you need to evaluate
if they'll buy books for everybody in the audience, or if they'll allow you to sell books or something.
And I learned this from actually Debbie Allen, who I think you've met,
right?
And because she, National Speakers Association member for many, many decades, international speaker, and in most of her work for many years was keynote and traveling and that kind of thing. And when she switched her model to waiving her fee, of course she still does get paid for speaking, but there are moments that she will waive her fee because she generates so much more money by doing that. She actually then she gets clients from it.
Well, you get more clients, you get more speaking engagement. So I like
free. Ultimately it's not free.
It's waive your, or they'll pay for expenses if it's out of state or out of the area.
Yes.
So the other thing, I was talking with a woman who wrote the book #Values. Dr. Betta Uribe was in here a while ago, and her first set when people ask her to speak is, "What's your budget?"
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
And then she will also then say, "Yes, I will waive my fee if it's out of state or out of area. If you'll pay for hotel and accommodations or flights, those are different ways of looking at it as well." But you mentioned NSA, so I want to just stop for a second. So National Speakers Association is a huge organization. There's chapters in every area. And you can join that as an organization that can help you do your speaking gigs. There's Toastmasters. There's different organizations that will help you. There's this thing called Speakertunity.
Yep.
So talk about
Speakertunity. You can go to, actually I have a free trial if you'd like that at speakerspots.com. Speakertunity is, so one of the challenges, I think we had talked about this in the beginning, one of the challenges for speakers, of course, we just magically want this audience to appear and just show up. But sometimes that's, maybe not the case. So we need to know, well, where could I speak? What locations could I go to?
Okay.
And Jackie Lapin has created a thing called Speakertunity. And
so Speakertunity, like opportunity, but with speaker in front.
And if you go to speakerspots.com, you can get a free trial of it. And what it is Jackie and her company have done all the work for you, where it's national. You get a link a few times a month, actually, because I remember a few times a month, and it'll give you like the contact name and number of different places, or like the association of blankety blank blank blank, and that way that part of your homework is made a little easier when you have that. So
makes it a little bit easier. So what do you think the audience is looking for? We talked a lot about the speaker, but what do you think the audience is looking for when they go to there's a banking association, there's a hotel association, there's a manufacturing, there's the Asian American Association, Chamber of Commerce. There's Chamber of Commerces that are looking for speakers. There's lots of people out there to get you those opportunities to get your speaking legs. Right?
Yes,
your legs, like your sea legs.
Your sea legs. Yeah, I think ultimately people are human. Got to remember that. And what's the thing people want the most? Like, what's in it for me? That just never gets old, right?
Right.
You got to.
It's a new radio.
WIIFM or IIF.
WIIFM. It's a new radio show. What's in it for me?
And every time I go, just like you, where I speak to all these different types of people, am I speaking to accountants? Am I speaking to realtors? Am I speaking to, women in business? I come in and thinking, if if I was a member of this organization, what would be important to me? What would be some obstacles I'd be dealing with? And I'll usually have that conversation with the host beforehand so that I'm not coming in blind. I'm not guessing.
Tell me about your audience, their age, what they look, what they're like, what's important to them, what their obstacles are. And then I think starting with something inspiring, a story or some kind.
And just so that way you're connecting with them. Usually generally people want value. They want to learn something. They want to have a good experience. Usually I'm very engaging as a speaker, so I'll typically ask the host, do you mind if it's interactive, engaging? Because that's my style. And they're like, yeah. Like, I've never had someone say, no, don't talk to the audience at all. We want you to be very distant and disconnected from the audience. I've never had anyone tell me that.
We want death by PowerPoint.
Yeah.
45 PowerPoint slides for a 20-minute speech with 4.5 font.
Yeah, and tell me that you have a 6-hour presentation, but you're going to cram it all into an hour.
Don't tell people that. Don't tell people that.
That's like awful. So you're just thinking as the audience member, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Remember that tour guide thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna pack a 6-hour hike into just 30 minutes. What? How are we gonna do that?
10 cities in 6 days.
Right. Exactly. So just, common sense a lot of times really is helpful.
Yeah. So we're just about running out of time, but I do want to end on one thing, since this is Women Kicking Glass.
That's right.
So what are your words of advice for women who want to be speakers and really want to go kick some glass?
Yeah, I would say get true with your soul. What is your soul asking you to do? And if you have a message that your soul has been like knocking on the door and you have not answered it, like I said, someday is not a day on the calendar. Yeah. Today is the day. Let's make it happen.
And keep a journal or something by your bed, or I used index cards because I could write a thought and stick them on the wall and write a thought.
That's a good idea.
That's how I wrote my first book.
Oh, cool.
It was all on index, main index cards with thoughts or quotes or things. So think about what's inspiring to you, and then who do you want to share that message with, whether it be young people or women or men or particular people in certain areas. So awesome. So one more time. How do we get in touch with you, Leisa?
Okay.
And how do we also find out more about Beyond Reasons?
Go to getbeyondyourreasons.com and click there to get your 2 seats for $297, a smoking hot deal. It expires November 17th, 2017. And to book me for a speaking gig if you'd like, or to get help with speaking gigs, you can go to Leisa, that's Lisa, at productivelearning.com.
Awesome.
Yay.
Awesome. And
Thank
so
you.
Just a couple of things. It's been a fun show. I feel like I'm having a conversation with a good friend, and we may have found an opportunity together, because I really want to do something with kids.
Okay.
I've got a huge thing in my head that I can't get out of.
Okay.
So if you wake up in the middle of the night with something in your head,
write it down.
You've got a message to send. You've got a message to tell somebody somewhere to help somebody else become who they are. Again, this is Patty Grimm with Women Kicking Glass. If you want to book me for a speaking gig, you can get to me at pattygrimm@live.com, and that's PATTIEGRIMM. If you want to listen to all of my shows, or if you want to look more about me, you can go to my website, www.advantage-training.com, to find out, to see all of the shows, the YouTubes, the videos and things we have up there, but also to find out more about me and to book me for speaking gigs. And we're looking for a sponsor for the show, so if you'd like to sponsor the show, please get in touch with me, and you get some cool advertising that'll go out to thousands and thousands of people. So with that, I just want to say have a great day, and one thing to remember when you're speaking is always be yourself, because everybody else is taken.
That's right.
Thank you.
The only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best they can be. Listen each week or download the podcast at patty.grimm.podbean.com. To reach out to Patty to schedule a speech webinar or to learn more about her leadership and team training, contact Patty at pattygrimm@live.com. For more information about her company and her books, have a kicking day.